How's it going, my transforming robot enthusiasts? Now today I want to talk to you about the most important character in the entirety of literature, the unsung hero of Transformers. That's right, I am of course talking about Jolt. So Jolt was barely a character in Revenge of the Fallen. He had like 5 seconds of screen time, none of which he was the main focus of any shot he was in. He didn't have any lines, he was barely a presence. And yet, he was quite possibly the most important character in the entire film, because you see, he was the one who had the gall, the will, the power to combine our hero Optimus Prime with Jetfire and bestow upon him the ability to single-handedly, well, not single-handedly, but bestowed upon him the ability to destroy the evil sun-blowing-uppy machine. Sure, Optimus Prime was the one to do that, but Ironhide could have done that if Jolt had combined him with Jetfire too, right? No, Jolt was the one who did it. He deserves all the credit. And what was the thanks he got? 0 minutes of screen time in Dark of the Moon, a terrible toy for Dark of the Moon, and a Legends class figure that looks like this. Wonderful. I figured it'd be productive to talk about what is now the 2 main Jolt figures now, upon light of the release of the new Studio Series figure. So first, let's whip it good with Revenge of the Fallen Jolt.
Jolt, electrified.
So this toy was released in 2009, alongside the avalanche of advanced and admirably awesome Revenge of the Fallen movie toys. So starting with the positives, I think the color blue throughout is wonderful. It's eye-catching, a bit shiny, and makes it feel more like the Reelio Dealio. There's actually some really solid sculpt work inside the kibbly car sections, and no matter how inaccurate the head sculpt is, I still like it all the same. I can't quite place why, but it looks a bit turtle-y to me, like that terrible Dana Carvey movie. So Jolt here is apparently a light piping truther, so despite having it, you ain't getting anything. In part because of this monstrous monument jetting out the back of his neck, making things worse and difficult, and for no reason. Like it's trying to sabotage the toy? The head should have articulation, but this gray catastrophe renders it completely useless, which, as Optibotimus once eloquently put it,
that's pretty gay.
But I guess in fairness, I do quite like the front and center Autobot symbol really letting you know where he stands, especially because this is such a rarity for Movieverse figures these days. So the toy certainly looks far from bad, however there's a few design choices I'm not crazy for. For one thing, this figure really reeks of based on early concept art energy. I won't pin this guy down for that too hard. My main gripe is these thin ball joint sticks that are ever present on the figure, such as the shoulders, hip flaps, and feet. Which, speaking of the feet, I'm also not feeling how gangly they are. They're made out of the back of his car mode, but it comes across as if Prowl's legs lost the will to try. Like extremely cursed hooves. His arms independent of the shoulders are fine, I guess, but I ain't loving these forearms. They're just so thin, it's hard to process that he has more than 2 fingers on each one. Fortunately, his forearms are disguised by his heinous car roof kibble. Now these things also have the electro whips he used in his pivotal scene of the film combining Optimus with Jetfire. But, yeah. You kind of can't avoid it. They're just distractingly small. How's he gonna get the job done with these beauty things?
Jolt, electrify, transplant those afterburners.
I can't. They're too small.
Well, I guess I'm dead again.
No!
There's also some fine sculpting on the chest, but it's really obscured by the translucent plastic, making it a bit hard to make out. And there's the faintest bit of mecha life happening inside his ab area, which is so hard to see that it might as well not even be there. So I suppose overall it's a decent-ish bot body being held together by ball joint sticks and weighed down by its flaps. I get it, Jolt's design is basically a kibble cabal, but a lot of it seems very paper thin and unsure of itself. That's sort of the vibe here with the robot mode. But moving on to the transformation, it works well enough. It's not exactly groundbreaking or particularly clever, but it's manageable and easy by Revenge of the Fallen standards. There are some parts that peg into place easier than others, just something to look out for. I guess it's the sort of transformation we'd expect from a background character like Jolt. Now after all my criticisms of the robot mode, this car mode is actually pretty perfect. It looks really good and attractive, and a bit like a pretty normal car. It's far from the flashiest of the movie car bots, and if I saw this thing at my local grocery store, I'd barely notice it. You know, robots in disguise and such. This mode is more so where the sculpting shines, and it does a great job emulating the real-world car, I assume. The paintwork also sticks the landing where it counts, with this alluring silver as well as this proud Chevrolet branding. And I really love that his name is Jolt, and he turns into a Volt, which, by the way, I've come to find out is an electric car. Which makes me appreciate more how they integrated that element into his character with the electric whips. However, it does make it a tad more glaring how little they did with it in the actual movie. Still though, this is a basically flawless car mode. Seriously, I got nothing in terms of negativity. It's a beautiful, bumbly, bite-sized boy. Now with that established, let's scurry over to the 2021 redo of our favorite nobody with Studio Series 75 Jolt. So how does 12 years look on our Electro Man Blue Whippy boy? Well, actually, really good. Immediately, everything seems so much more focused and confident in itself, like the designers knew exactly what they wanted each part to be and where they should go. Sure, there's some kibble hanging around the back, but that is what he's supposed to look like. Plus, it comes across more intentional than the other figure in that they're not just some flat panels, and thus allows me to tolerate it more. Fun fact, Jolt is where Electric Mayhem got their name from. The color blue they chose for this is brazenly beautiful. I probably prefer the original shiny, real-world accurate blue, but this works too. The legs are sculpted and painted dashingly. They take up way less space than the originals. They look so good and robotic. And the feet look like they're meant to be feet. Wow! I love the roundiness in the way they touch the ground, like a hump. The arms are looking as good as possible with this really far elbow bend here, and the crane claw hands are just way better this time around. They're also getting me excited about a certain someone, and I'm really impressed that all the blue pieces on his arms actually contribute to the transformation and become parts of the car. I don't typically knock a figure down for faux parts, but I always admire it when a toy can elegantly use the real parts for the robot mode seamlessly and accurately. Now the torso section looks nothing short of lovely with the silver paint, design accurate detailings, and the circular jet engines posing as his outer chest. And the head sculpt is as perfect as they could have gotten it. I guess I somewhat prefer the original toy's inaccurate head from a design perspective, since it looks more traditionally Transformer-y. However, this does look more like the character and it totally fits in with the Bayverse aesthetic. For what it is, I really love how it turned out, and I always feel blown away by how consistently great the Studio Series head sculpts are. Plus, it can actually move around and everything! Now, Studio Series Jolt includes the electric whips as separate pieces, which can be inserted into his hands by disconnecting the thumbs. Now, you're probably wondering, well, where do his thumbs go then? Well, dear viewer, on his hips, of course! But yeah, these accessories work fine for what they are. They serve their purpose satisfyingly enough, and I'm glad they're at least longer than 2 centimeters so he can finally help Optimus combine with Jetfire. Rounding it up then, this is a very good little robot mode. It's basically all I could have wanted from Jolt's robo form. For an absolute nobody, he's bound to catch the affections of everybody. The transformation is really creative and unique. I can't say there's any other figures that transform similarly. There's a bit more to do here, but that's to be expected when there's a greater focus given to the robot mode this time around. There are times when tabbing certain sections in is a bit tricky, but it's doable. And when it's done, you end up with this exceedingly exciting electric event. Again, this alt mode is a great representation of the one in the film. It's fantastic for all the same reasons as the Revenge of the Fallen toy. The sculpting is relentless, the paint is appropriate, it, looks like the car seen in the film. It has it all. Interestingly, the dark translucent plastic used for the windows is also used for the roof section, unlike the original Jolt. I have no idea if this is accurate or not. In all fairness, I've never seen the actual Volt used for the movie. It doesn't even bother me, I'm just addressing it. So since the electric whips are thankfully a separate piece on this toy, you can stick them to the sides of the car, make him look like even more of a rebel. I suppose if I really had to choose which toy's alt mode I prefer, I guess maybe the original toy. There's something about the shiny blue plastic and the translucent blue windows that looks so attractive to me. But functionally, each of their car modes look just as good as each other in my opinion. So I don't usually touch on the boxes or the Studio Series display stands very much, and by very much I mean ever, since I'm one of those weirdos who buy the toy for the toy. But looky here, the box claims itself to include a display stand for the Pyramid Desert Battle. but this ain't no desert battle. Looks more like the display stands that came with the Dark of the Moon characters. You know, a film that Jolt wasn't in? But beyond that humorous aside, Studio Series Jolt is pretty much the default Jolt toy that I've been aching for. I'm just super happy this character was included and was given some form of modern recognition. So between the two, which is the better Jolt toy? Well, dear viewer, that is for you to decide. Probably in the comment section to help drive up interactivity of this video. But if you're asking me, I have to say that the Studio Series figure feels way more satisfying and is overall a better toy. I know it's tempting to say that with the movie toys, the vehicle modes are given top priority while the robot modes are somewhat secondary, and the original Revenge of the Fallen Jolt really embodies that. That's not to say he's a terrible toy by any means, but he ain't the sharpest tool in the Revenge of the Fallen shed. But I am glad the updated modern Jolt gave us the version of the character we needed. I guess Smash Mouth was wrong when they said,
It ain't gonna get better with time.
So that's all from me today. Let me know if you agree. Please hang tight and
Stay electrifying.